Let's talk to Sir Iain Duncan Smith, MP, former Conservative Party leader, who himself, of course, has been banned and been put on a sort of sanctions list by China and has talked many times about how dangerous and difficult our relationship with China is. Sir Iain, very good morning to you.
Hello, Mike.
I'm staggered, really, that we're forced to believe, according to Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, that a relatively junior civil servant is solely responsible for the collapse of a very, very major trial about two characters spying for China inside the Palace of Westminster.
Yeah, because it's not true. He is the deputy to the National Security Advisor, and that man is not a civil servant. He's an appointee. Jonathan Powell was appointed by the Prime Minister directly, rather like Mandelson, if you recall.
Yes.
He chose to appoint somebody who was his own man. And the thing about this is they've gone in twists and knots to try and explain that somehow Jonathan Powell wasn't involved in any shape or form in this whole decision about what to say about China for the CPS. I mean, that is just beggars belief.
Yeah.
You have a guy who's the National Security Advisor and has given himself a denied ordinance to go away whilst this is being decided. We now know that the Sunday Times was quite correct. It said that there was a private meeting before the decisions were made about what to say, and Jonathan Powell attended that, and at this meeting, it was discussed. Now, they denied this flat, constantly. They've now had to backtrack and accept that he was at the meeting took place, and it clearly, they had no influence on the decision. Really, you're going to tell me that with all the officials around the table and Jonathan Powell representing the government, you don't tell me that he didn't influence events that happened. And the latest note that you've seen, clearly by the sound of what you just said, it tells you that all they did was parrot, when the only thing they had to do about what their belief was they parroted out this rubbish about dealing with them in a positive way, China, and there's no mention of the word threat in any of their statement about their own policy position. So they have lied through their teeth from start to finish on this. The Prime Minister himself dissembled like mad at the dispatch box the other day when he was confronted by Kemi Badenoch about what he had done and what he had said. And now I've come to believe your diagnosis of him, I'm afraid, is absolutely correct.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, looking at the statements that we now know have been released by the Prime Minister and the Downing Street, Director of Public Prosecution Stephen Parkinson said the evidence required from the government in the spying case related to whether China could be considered an enemy under the Official Secrets Act. At no point in any of these statements is that word used or addressed, right? And of course, we are forced to believe by Keir Starmer and his hoods that this guy acted completely and utterly on his own. Matthew Collins decided that he didn't want to cooperate with prosecutors in a very, very, what you might call sensitive public prosecution of spies inside the, as I said, the Palace of Westminster. It just beggars belief. It's nonsense, isn't it?
It's complete nonsense. I mean, I'm sanctioned, as you said earlier. I've also had spies involved with me from China, wolf warriors as they're called, low-level people impersonating me. Others have as well. This has been going on forever. The key thing was this: he didn't actually even have to say enemy. All they had to say was that it was perceived that China posed a threat. It's a very simple, low bar to set. The evidence right at the beginning, he's trying to say that the Conservatives didn't have this and therefore it was down to them that it failed. Not at all, because the case went ahead when the Conservatives were in power because the MI5, all the institutions said categorically they pose a threat. In fact, MI5 said they pose the greatest threat to the freedom of the United Kingdom. All they had to do was confirm that and say that they continue to believe China posed a threat. So, you know, the old twisted can't lie straight in bed man himself, he then absolutely refused to do this. Why? Because they're kissing the backside of China at the moment because they want a trade arrangement and they were desperately worried that China would get really hacked off with them for prosecuting them for spying. And the second thing is we've got this ghastly, excuse me, I won't swear, the embassy, a huge mega embassy, the largest in Europe, and they're going to drive that one through while they're at it as well with 200 extra spies in the United Kingdom. This is a government that should be arraigned, I'm afraid, for unpatriotic activities.
Totally. I mean, one of the statements within the witness statement that we've seen says this: the government's position is that we will cooperate where we can, compete where we need to, and challenge where we must, including on issues of national security. However, it is important for me to emphasise, this comes from Matthew Collins, that the UK government is committed to pursuing a positive relationship with China to strengthen understanding, cooperation and stability. And if you want to enter what might be called a Chinese puzzle, have a look at what Keir Starmer said yesterday about a meeting that took place.
There was a meeting in September. That did not involve the National Security Advisor discussing the evidence in any way, nor, Mr. Speaker, one further piece of evidence. The final statement in this case was submitted in August 2025. There was no further submission of evidence, one way or the other, after any discussion in September. This is a red herring, a completely scurrilous allegation made by the Leader of the Opposition.
I mean, was the meeting about a five-a-side tournament in Downing Street or something? I mean, what was the meeting about?
Well, it wasn't a red herring. It's the Prime Minister is a dead herring, a kipper, I think is what we call that. He's well and truly smoked. What's actually happened here is what he was referring to was what I said earlier on. He finally admitted. Now get this, Mike. They had denied that meeting took place for the last, 4 weeks. Categoric, no meeting, no attendance, nothing happened. Now he gets to the dispatch box and he has to say that the meeting took place. Why? Because he got them banged to rights. We have evidence. We have people that attended it saying it. So now what he tries to say is that they had to give a submission by August, not true, and that was the last submission. It was their last submission because they didn't want this to go ahead. So this guy, honestly, frankly, he should be prosecuted for what he actually ended up saying. Right. They have twisted and turned and dumped. And this is one smoked kipper that needs now, frankly, to be dispatched to the dustbin bin.
Yeah, quite. I mean, is this a serious enough problem, do you think, for Keir Starmer? I mean, because he's proving himself to be slightly Teflon-like in the sense that there has been one scandal after another, you know, one ministerial resignation after another, you know, appointments that have been made that should never have been made, you know, people that have been associated with him, from the Lord Alley glasses to the suits to the free tickets for football and Taylor Swift, you know, to Peter Mandelson and his friendship with a paedophile. You know, I've never known a government more tainted by scandal, and yet, you know, Keir Starmer's still there.
Well, yeah, go and have a look at his personal poll ratings, which I am now told are the lowest for any Prime Minister at any time. And by the way, they're even lower than that very short-term Prime Minister that we had. I mean, he has sunk to the bottom of the bottom. And the reason is because what you were saying earlier on, he doesn't seem capable of saying something that's straight. Right. Everything that comes out of his mouth seems to be one large corkscrew. Yeah. And, you know, twists and turns and fibs and lies, and it's become ridiculous. I mean, this lie that you were touching on earlier on about net zero, you know, I've been opposed to what their government's doing for ages and ages and ages, and what they're now doing is saying you're going to save money. You're not saving any money. All of the charges that they put on are hidden taxes because they don't have to bring them to the dispatch box to debate them in part of a tax budget debate, because they're charges, not taxes, but they are, in actual fact, charges for your life. That's why people are struggling at the moment, because of this communist ideal of net zero at any cost. It's absolutely barking mad, and it's got to stop. And I'm glad Kemi said we are going to get rid of it if we get back. We have to just unite. No more of this nonsense. And this lying about spying, I'm one of those affected. You know, we speak out against China. They pose the greatest threat to our freedom of any single organization or country since easily the Cold War and possibly even the Second World War.
Yeah, I mean, and those are strong words, but I tend to disagree with you. I tend to agree with you. Absolutely right. Sir Iain Duncan Smith, thank you very much indeed. Former Conservative Party leader there, sanctioned by China, saying that China is the biggest single threat to this country, possibly not just now,